a lot has happened during the year, last year, this year, and I'm sure some of us know of people who have died due to suicide, died by suicide, whether it is somebody close to you, whether it is a neighbor or a cousin, a celebrity. So I thought it would be fitting to just start this this webinar with a moment of silence, just to think and about the extent and the depth of and the importance of this under represented topic. All right, thank you. So I'm really excited to introduce our two guests, Sifiso and so Sifiso Mkhasibe, right? And
Mkhasibe.
Mkhasibe, sorry.
Yes,
and then Val, Rankin, Prinsloo. We have amazing individuals here with us to share their insights, to share their wisdom. They each work in various spaces. So Sifiso works in the presidential group on disability. He also was sitting as a board member in many other disability organizations. So he brings that aspect into this discussion. Also as an independent consultant who works in the mental health industry. So it's very important that we have this perspective on mental health. And then we have Val. Val is Val is an author, and she is also a mental health user. So all three of us are mental health users.
Until we got interrupted by someone.
And hi, there's a little Nuno online. Can she be muted? Thanks. So yes, so we have these, I was saying, Val is an author, and she's written about her experience around having bipolar disorder, and incredible two books that I think she'll touch on in her story. She also was sitting in a board for transformation around disabilities. And so we have both of these incredible people who we are touching base with. But for us, this webinar is very important that it becomes personalized, that it doesn't become something that is clinical, medical, but we recognize that mental health in the workplace is dealing with people. People are the ones who go into the workspaces every day, and often our workspaces do not allow us to be our true selves. We always have to, we feel, or the working world has been structured in such a way where it isn't desirable to come as your full self. But post-COVID, it has become very relevant, and studies have been done where
yeah, but I'm not going to go through all.
Hi, Penny.
All the.
Hi, Penny.
Hidden word.
Yes, oh my word. So during COVID, a lot of people experienced mental health conditions. And we tend to look at mental health conditions in a certain way, and we have a certain perspective. And I think this will be very interesting to allow us to understand what it actually is and what it looks like. It's not what a lot of people think it looks like. I'm sure if you bumped into me, Sifiso or Val in the street, you wouldn't go, oh, they have a mental condition. You just see individuals. So one thing we must think of as we go through this is, why is it that we stigmatize other people who then disclose invisible impairments? Why is it that we feel within ourselves makes it okay that we discriminate or we judge others? Is it because we are ashamed of something within ourselves and are struggling to accept other things, and we reject others because of what we see in ourselves? So that is something worth looking into. But just to give you a background of how COVID really affected a lot of people. A lot of people cited having depression. A lot of people cited having anxiety disorder, chronic fatigue, suicidal ideation, unproductiveness due to mental conditions. And a lot of us usually think there are a type of people who develop mental health conditions. The truth is, I think it's about 1 in 4 people will have a mental illness in their lifetime. And so it isn't as rare as we think it is. It's quite a huge population. In fact, it is the most disabling condition in the world globally. That is the one declared disability that a lot of disability a lot of people face in the world. So I want to introduce Sifiso to take us off. I am just going to attempt to put on these other eyes, and okay, bear with me. I don't trust my eyes, so they take a little time to kick in. Okay. Righty. From the beginning. Okay. Another thing that I would also just like to mention about our perspective in this is that we are doing it through narratives. And I think it's important when we talk about mental health in the workplace that we continue to remember that we go as people in the workplace. And there are certain conditions or environments that make disability disclosure or mental health disclosure difficult in work. So we will touch base on terms of what employees can do, what it will feel like, what you may face when you disclose mental health in the workplace, but also what employees can do better. Like, what is the best practice that employers can put in place to ensure that they create an environment of accessibility in this form. And we may even have a discussion later on about what reasonable accommodation may look like in the sphere. So I'm just going to switch off my camera, if I can just find it. And then, Sifiso, you can go ahead. Just give me a second. Get out of there. Okay, there we go. Let me just make it full screen. Wait. Okay, can somebody assist? How do I make it full screen?
You gotta go to
there.
slow share. Yeah, okay, perfect.
Thank you so much. All right, take it away, Sifiso.
Great, thanks so much, Abongile, for that wonderful introduction. Yeah, I'm honored to be here and honored to be one of the speakers just to speak about mental health in the workplace. And yes, happy World Mental Health Day to everyone. It's such a great day to actually celebrate mental health worldwide. Yeah, let's all do our, let's do our part to, to post on social media, to talk to our friends and family about Mental Health Day, yeah, and our colleagues as well. So just to go ahead, in terms of my content, in terms of my presentation today.
What does that give? Give it. Come.
Sorry, guys, can I please ask you all to mute yourself? upon entering. Thank you. Sifiso, I think you're good to go.
Okay, great. Thanks so much. What I'll be talking about today is my lived experience with regards to mental health in the workplace. I'll also look at, defining what disability is and what mental disability is in the workplace, and then just touch on a few facts about mental health generally in South Africa and from the World Health Organization, and then looking at my experience in terms of mental health in the workplace, my challenges and how I overcame that, and also looking at my reasonable accommodation in terms of how I was reasonably accommodated in the workplace. All right, great. So my lived experience with mental health, I was diagnosed with bipolar mood disorder type 2 in 2007. This was 16 years ago. I think I was around about 23 years old. And yeah, so being diagnosed with bipolar mood disorder, for me, it was strange. For me, it was like, I can't believe I've got, this condition. I didn't believe it. I was in denial. My family didn't know about it. My friends didn't know about it. So there was no support that I was getting from my close friends and family. So what is bipolar mood disorder? So bipolar mood disorder is characterized by extreme swings from depression, feeling down, and to mania, feeling high on life. So this is without now using substances or anything like that. I remember being in denial, like I mentioned before, and and I didn't believe that I was crazy, because that's what people would say, that you're either crazy or bewitched, or that there's that's how they would classify me as when I was having those symptoms of bipolar mood disorder. Um, the treatment that worked for me was, and still is, medication. So taking medication in the morning and the evening. So having good mood stabilizers to assist me, to bring back the chemical imbalance in my brain. So that helps. And what helps as well is psychotherapy, in terms of speaking to my counselor, my psychiatrist, and also, attending support groups, because that's very important as well, in terms of, networking and speaking to other people that have a mental health condition or a bipolar mood disorder, in terms of supporting each other and learning how to cope in today's fast-paced world. And as well as a healthy lifestyle. That's very important for me, because, drinking water every day, and making sure I try to exercise, eating healthy, anything that will improve my lifestyle in terms of my health. So in terms of my depressive episodes, when I was admitted at hospital, I was feeling depressed, down all the time, and generally the symptoms of depression were very present at that time. Okay, so that's what I was experiencing when I was diagnosed with bipolar. So these included, irregular sleeping patterns, irregular eating habits, loss of interest in life and other people, and then poor concentration at school. I couldn't concentrate well, at college as well. So that's also one of the symptoms. Social withdrawal, lack of energy, tiredness, and exhaustion, feeling hopeless, an overwhelming feeling of sadness and grief. I remember during that time, one of my best friend, we used to play rugby, and he started playing for a local team, and he was involved in a tackle where he had concussion, and a week later, he sadly passed on from his injuries. So for me, that was a very tough situation to deal with, because I think that was the first time where I was very close to someone and they had passed on, and I didn't know how to deal with all of that, and that's what led to my depressive episode. I would say, yeah. We can move on to the next one. So the definition of disability, disability in the workplace. It's a long-term or recurring physical or mental impairment which substantially limits the prospects of entry into or advancement in employment. Okay, and then mental impairments. We're looking at learning in the workplace. Um, a clinical recognized condition or illness that affects a person's thought processes, judgment, or emotions. Okay, we can move on to the next. So looking still with a definition of disability in the workplace. So when we say someone's got a mental illness or a mental health condition in the workplace, we classify that as a psychosocial disability. Some people will say it's an invisible disability and so forth. It's exactly the same thing. So psychosocial disability is the most neglected and stigmatized of all disabilities. And that's what one of the things that Abongile mentioned in the introduction, and to say that the group is most discriminated against in society. So this disabled the individual with a diagnosis even further. And then looking at psychiatric disability includes common and severe mental illnesses. So these are your anxiety, your panic disorders, schizophrenia, and bipolar mood disorders. All right. And then looking at the psychosocial disability is also very much misunderstood. Many myths and incorrect beliefs exist, especially in various cultural and religious communities. I would say from my side, coming from an African background, a cultural background, in terms of my family's beliefs and my family's religious beliefs, they would tell me that you must overcome this. Stop acting. It's something that you just need to be strong and just move past it, not realizing that it's a serious condition mentally. So that was it was a big stumbling block for me when I needed to get support from family and friends. So through my journey, I was able to, educate and empower and let them know, that I can live with this condition. It's manageable, and it's not the end of the world. I can still function in society. So it's important to know that mental health conditions affect individuals differently. Thus, the degree in which such a condition places limitations on the person's functioning varies from person to person. Medication treating mental health conditions may also have side effects that can also affect functioning. So that's one of the things that I experienced early on when I was diagnosed. Myself and my doctor, we had to find the correct dosage in terms of my medication and how I'll function. Because I'd find myself in the beginning stages, I would always drowsy in the mornings, always wanted to sleep because of the heavy dose of medication. But through time and through trial and error, we were able to get the correct medication that is best for me to be able to function in society. All right, next slide. So looking at mental health facts, research indicates that people receiving treatment for mental illnesses are no more violent or dangerous than the general public. So a lot of people would say that people with mental illnesses are very dangerous because this is portrayed in media and social media, in movies and TV series and soapies and such, that only show a person with a mental illness at the extreme level where they are, violent and dangerous, and that's not true. There are people, or such as myself as well, who have a mental condition, a mental illness, who are not violent, and that kind of thing. And then looking at cultural background affects how people experience mental illness and how they understand and interpret symptoms. All right. And then many people experiencing mental illness delay seeking help because they are frightened by the illness. the fear of stigma and discrimination. So that's the many things that I advocate for as an activist for mental health, is to let people know that they should disclose. They should speak about their mental illness, the experience that they've been through, how they feel about having a mental illness, and what support do they need. Because this is very important, so we can break down the stigma and discrimination that we experience in South Africa. And anyone can develop a mental illness, and no one is immune to mental health problems. Um, and among all disabilities and mental disorders are associated with the highest rate of unemployment, between 70 and 90%. Okay, next one. Still continuing with mental health facts. So facts according to the World Health Organization, depression is the leading cause of disability worldwide. 33% of countries have no mental health budget. 1 in 4 people will be affected by a mental health disorder at some point in their lives. I think this is looking at the South African stats, but worldwide, I think it's 1 in 8 people. This is according to the WHO. And then every 40 seconds, someone commits suicide. So that's a huge number of people who are depressed and not knowing what to do, who to speak to, feeling like it's the end of the world, and not realizing that there's help out there. They're not alone. So yeah, we try to reach as many people as we can, just by speaking and sharing our life stories and our lived experience. And then 4 out of 5 people with mental disorders in developing countries don't receive treatment. And almost 50% of all mental disorders begin before the age of 14. And then 2.5 million deaths per year are due to harmful use of alcohol. So this is where people abuse substances, basically your alcohol, and other substances as well. And then 80% of global burden of disease due to mental disorders is found in low and middle income countries such as South Africa. Next slide, please. So looking at mental health in the workplace, why is it important to address mental health in the workplace? A healthy and competent workforce is a precondition for an effective and profitable work organization. It is recognized that the workplace can be a major contributor to poor mental health and poor performance. People spend a considerable amount of time during their adult years in the workplace. All right. We find ourselves, we always at work, we're thinking about deadlines, we at meetings, so yeah, most of our adult years we spend in the workplace. A psychologically healthy workforce and a supportive environment will benefit staff and employees alike. Excellent venue to promote mental well-being, address mental health problems, and prevent existing problems from becoming more serious. So that's why it's very important to have wellness days, mental health days, addressing mental health issues, having team building exercises within the workplace, having one-on-one interaction with your manager or your employees in terms of their mental health, their personal life, their work life, just so we can address these issues and prevent them from becoming bigger problems, prevent them from having people to getting diagnosed and having people go to hospital for a week or 21 days. So it's important to address these issues beforehand. Yeah. Next slide. So the challenges that I experienced in the workplace, having a mental health condition, I'm just going to go through a few of them. So screening out environmental stimuli and inability to block out sounds, sights, odors, which interfere with focusing on task. So for example, I was not able to work next to a noisy printer or a high traffic area, because this would distract me and I would lose focus in terms of what I need to do. So the solution here would be within my workplace was that, you know, they'd moved the printer away from the work area where I was working. They'd allow me to wear headphones while playing soft music so I can concentrate, or they'd also install a high partition around my desk, so I can have that space and that quietness in terms of having to work. And then also sustaining concentration. So restlessness, shortened attention span, easily distracted, trouble remembering verbal directions. So for example, I had trouble focusing on one task for an extended period of time. So the solution here for me was that I'd break large projects into smaller tasks, allowing brief but more frequent breaks to stretch. I'd walk around to stretch my legs and to get fresh air. And each task was assigned to me one at a time. And this helped me to concentrate and to focus on what I needed to do for the day. Next slide. And also just maintaining my stamina in the workplace. You know, having energy to work a full day, combating drowsiness due to medications. So you know, I was not able to work a full 8-hour day. So for me, this was a big challenge because of the medication, and just you know, feeling drowsy from the medication. So the solution here was that I work part-time hours. I take breaks in the middle of the day, and also what helped is working within a team and job sharing. Basically, you know, sharing the duties that I had would make it easier for me to just maintain my stamina in terms of my mental health in the workplace. And then responding to change was also a challenging for me in the workplace. So, you know, coping with unexpected changes at work, such as changes in the rules, job duties, you know, having new supervisors or new co-workers come into the workplace. For example, you know, and I might take longer to learn new routines, or feel that, you know, that I was stressed with new supervisors or new co-workers that start work. So the solution here for me would be that you know, I prepare for changes that would be happening. So this is speaking to my manager or speaking to my colleagues. They would explain the new rules to me in terms of what needs to be done or the duties that I need to perform, and make a special effort to introduce me to new staff and to orientate me to new supervisors and to my needs, which is very important in terms of them supporting me and just assisting me to function well in the workplace. Next slide. And also looking at my other challenges in the workplace was, you know, a challenge for me was handling time pressures, multiple task managing assignments, meeting deadlines, prioritizing tasks. So for me, I may not know how to decide which task should be done first, or be able to complete tasks by the due date. So this was a challenge for me. So the solution here was that, you know, we'll break larger projects down into manageable tasks. I'd meet regularly with my supervisor or manager, or my colleagues to help me prioritize tasks, or even to estimate time to complete the project, in terms of how long I can, you know, complete that certain project or program that we're working on. So that was a solution for me in terms of that challenge. And then interacting with others, you know, there was a challenge for me getting along, you know, trying to fit in, talking to co-workers in terms of having similar interests, you know, reading social cues. So that was a challenge for me. For example, I may not talk with co-workers at breaks. You know, I feel like I'm always doubting myself. I wouldn't be able to know what to talk about, where to start. You know, so I've had those social cues within myself, where I would doubt myself. Um, yeah, and that's what I'd experienced within the workplace. So the solution for me here was, to establish a mentor, someone to mentor me, to coach me, or a coworker, a buddy relationship to introduce me to others, and to show me the ropes. I think this worked well for me, in terms of now being able to be social at work, be able to speak to others. So this was great. This was the kind of support that worked for me, in the workplace. Yeah. Next slide. So looking at reasonable accommodation, for me in the workplace. So time off for follow-up visits to the clinic or to see my psychiatrist or my psychologist. So this was very important, that when I disclosed, to my managers or to my workplace, that I needed time off for these type of visits, so that I can address my mental health in terms of, my medication and my counseling, or my psychotherapy. And then later starting time due to side effects of medication causing drowsiness. So this was a big issue in the beginning, because I wasn't using medical aid at the time. I was using the public system, and we all know that in the public system that sometimes medication is not available, the medication that I need. And then I am given generic version, where it's similar but not exactly the same thing. So my body would react to it, and I'd find myself, I would be drowsy all the time. So I would ask that I would start a bit later, and then maybe finish a bit later. So this was one of the reasonable accommodation that I was allowed, and I requested as well. More frequent breaks. So more frequent breaks in terms of just stretching my legs, going to the next office, speaking to my colleague about something that is work related, instead of just sitting in the desk and busy with that work, just to allow myself to just breathe and to come back and then continue working. And then extended sick leave when relapses occur. So sometimes, I think once or twice, during my working career, I did relapse because of lack of medication that was not available at the clinics or the hospitals. So this was very, very, very detrimental for me. So I was able to get extended sick leave from my work environment. So this allowed me to, to get back to being me and taking my medication, and speaking to my psychiatrist and my psychologist. And then later on, I was able to get back onto medical aid, where now I could get my medication without it being interrupted. So relapses, I have had in the past. I was fortunate enough that I had good doctors where they would bring in family members to assist in terms of supporting me, educating them as well on how to support and how to help me through this time of having a relapse. Because relapse are very hectic to have. It's not easy, but I was glad that I was able to step back and acknowledge and take ownership of my mental illness, and realize that I needed to do something, and do something in order for me to be able to become productive at work once I get back from my extended sick leave. And then limited stress working environment. And then that's one of my reasonable accommodation, and the use of email for daily instructions. So this is something I needed in order for me to function, to do my daily tasks every day. And then minimize distractions by enclosed office. So a piece of, having peace and quiet in the office for me to be able to work, having that enclosed office. And an location of parking close to entrance to limit anxiety and panic. So this is one of my reasonable accommodation as well. a need for a job coach or mentor, someone to just to mentor me and coach me and to just show me the ropes and for there as a support person whenever I need assistance or help. Next slide. So a significant shift in mental health in the workplace. So the ancient approach towards mental health in the workplace was that people were excluded from workplace community life. They weren't included in terms of events that were taking place at work or meetings. They were sidelined. Then inequality and discrimination. This is still happening in some workplaces if people do disclose and that they have a mental illness. And then emotional abuse from the colleagues, from the managers, if they do have a mental health condition and they did disclose. Some people still have, experience this, and I experienced this in the beginning when I was working and when my beginning stages of when I was diagnosed. This is the type of thing I experienced, emotional abuse and deprivation of my voice. I wasn't allowed to speak up and to say, to be active in meetings, or I didn't have a voice. I wasn't allowed to have a voice in the workplace. So these are the ancient approaches to mental health in the workplace. Next slide. So the modern approach is medical model prove effective. So that for me, it proved very effective in terms of having the right medication, the right dosage, taking it regularly on certain times of the day. So this worked well for me. And then human rights application improved quality of life and equality in the workplace. So then after learning about my mental disorder, then I started looking at what are my human rights in terms of mental health. How can I apply this to my life and in my work as well? What is it that I can do in order for me to improve my quality of life in the workplace? And then while workplace attitudes may remain in ancient times, we perceive persons with psychosocial disability incapable of participating in the workplace to their full potential. Next slide. Another important thing is looking at policies and legislation. So various policies, legislation, treaties are in place with the focus of, the Mental Health Care Act in South Africa, the Employment Equity Act, the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. So these are important policies and legislation in terms of mental health in the workplace and disability in the workplace. So it's good to be very familiar with these policies in order to know your rights and to know your rights and to know what you deserve and what's needed for the workplace to support you in terms of your mental health. And then securing equal opportunities and equal rights for people with all types of disabilities, including psychosocial disabilities. Next slide. Then the importance of mental health awareness in the workplace. So employers that take the mental health of their employees seriously is very important. The promotion of positive mental health and well-being programs at work, training managers and frontline employees. So that's very important. And then appointing mental health champions at work and breaking the stigma. So this also helped me a lot in the workplace by having these mental health champions to break the stigma in terms of people disclosing and myself disclosing as well. Creating psychological safe spaces. So then there's policies on, for example, the support for employees with common mental health disorders, reasonable accommodation, absence of disability definition, and then the return to work after being sick for mental illness related issues. So that's very important as well, that people shouldn't be afraid to go to the, to go to clinic or to go to hospital for a week or so for their mental illness. You know, they shouldn't be afraid to know that, okay, fine, they're not going to lose their work because of being diagnosed with a mental illness. Next slide. And then the importance of mental health awareness for employers. So to produce and implement and communicate a mental health at work plan. So a mental health at work plan is very important in terms of addressing those issues. And then to develop mental health awareness among employees. That's also important to raise awareness. And then encourage open conversations about mental health and the support available when employees are struggling. So this is actually one of the things that actually helped me in terms of my mental health in the workplace. And then to provide employees with good working conditions, and then to also promote effective people management, and routinely monitor employee mental health and well-being. Next slide. So just to leave you with the thought, you don't have to control your thoughts. You just have to stop letting them control you, by Dan Millen. And thank you so much for listening, and open to any questions or any engagement from anyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sifiso. That was lovely, and thank you for sharing your story. Just want to make sure can everybody see me?
Not yet.
Okay.
I think you need to stop sharing, maybe. Stop sharing.
Oh, yes. Should stop
Yes.
the session now.
Yeah, stop sharing. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Excuse me. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think it's very powerful that we centralize mental health in the workplace with personal stories. Okay, just to let you know, I cannot see your comments because I'm visually impaired. So Nasia, at particular times, I'll just ask you to have a look at the chat situation there, and then just highlight any questions as we go.
No problem.
Thank you
No
so
problem.
much. Thank you. So what we're going to do is we're going to hang 10 with asking Sifiso questions. I'll just introduce our next speaker, and then afterwards we can have an open dialogue and just discuss further, and then we can ask questions. I think it was very important, the fact that you mentioned how you dealt with it, you know, your coping mechanisms, the reasonable accommodation that was offered to you at work. And I'm sure a lot of people noticed the things that you were highlighting as impediments to your performance at work were things that any of us have experienced at any given time. You know, we have been distracted, we have been tired, we have been drowsy, we had been coming late at work, we were irritable, and all of these things. So sometimes people like to divorce all these symptoms of mental health to certain people, that it's something else like that and it looks something different. And also there are case studies. There are case studies that have proven that a lot of people, for example, in Canada would tell their families about how many, like 50% would tell their family and their friends or co-workers that their family members had mental health conditions, in comparison to 68% that would tell them they have diabetes, you know. And so it also speaks to not even the internal, the stigma that a person will face, but also the stigma that their family members will face. And it's because we need to have the sort of leadership in organizations that is able to support, to integrate, to be aware of these, to have the capacity to train managers, to be able to interact with persons with impairments, to also include the persons with impairments in their own solutions. A lot of organizations may be led by persons without mental health conditions or any sort of impairment. And then they will tend to make decisions about and for persons with impairment, and yet they have no understanding of the experience whatsoever. And so what it sounds like in your case is that your employers and the work environment you had was very interactive. It involved you. It was very inclusive. It wasn't a top-down approach, but it was an approach of understanding how they can assist you to perform better. And for me, that is how I literally see reasonable accommodation. I often question, who is it reasonable towards? Like, the person who doesn't have the impairment must decide what is reasonable for me with the experience. So it's funny. So my perspective and view is basically, you are providing results, you are providing resources rather, and support for your employee to become more effective and efficient at work. And that is what reasonable accommodation, I think, should be defined as. That you're able to close the gap that your employee may have due to an impairment so that they can perform better. And then when people have this approach, all of a sudden the purse can open, you know, because we know often there's no budget.
Yes.
So exactly. So and this leads us into our conversation with Val. She will talk about her experience, but another thing that she'll point out is the kind of leadership that makes the sort of mental health transformation work in the workplace, and the kind of leadership which makes mental health implementation fail at work. And then she'll also share some solutions for us. So Val, I'm going to pull up your presentation now.
Abs, sorry, before we continue with Val, we have one question in the chat box. Would you like to answer that now, Sifiso, and then we move on, or at the end?
Sure. No, go ahead, take it, Sifiso.
Okay,
Thanks,
so Lisa Bradshaw has asked, many employers fear reduced productivity if they make such reasonable accommodation adjustments. How did you reassure the employer of your productivity and work deliverables once these reasonable accommodation adjustments had been made? How did you manage with the workload required in the role?
Thanks for that, Lisa. A very, very important question. Yes, and it is one of the things that a lot of employers would ask as well through my talks and my presentations within organizations. So what's good to mention here is that is when you do disclose and you do ask for reasonable accommodation, you should also come up with solutions in terms of how would they benefit in terms of them providing you with reasonable accommodation, and then reassuring them in terms of for me, what worked was having one-on-one sessions in terms with my manager, looking at my productivity, at looking at my deadlines, am I meeting my deadlines, that kind of thing. So there's always a follow-up in terms of what needs to be done, and when it needs to be done, and can I do it? So that's also one of the good things that helped me in terms of my reasonable accommodation in the workplace. And in terms of my workload, prioritizing is the best thing as well. It's also just good communication with my manager or my employer, making sure that that I'm not slipping or not falling behind. Was one of the things that I was able to do. I was able to open and speak with my manager, and they were very supportive in that way. They had an open door policy where if I was stuck with anything, I was able to reach out to them and speak to them about something, and that helped. That in that way, I was able to meet deadlines. I was able to be productive, and that was one of the things that worked. I think that's one of the things I explained to a lot of employers in terms of hiring people with mental health conditions, that there has to be that kind of support, just like with any other employee. There has to be meetings, one-on-one meetings, to make sure that everyone or in the staff is doing what they need to do. Are they supported well? What do they need to be able to function, to complete a task or to complete a project? So that's very crucial if you want reasonable accommodation to work in the workplace.
Thanks, Sifiso. Lisa, I hope that was satisfactory. And just to add on, it has been stated, there was a study done that 36 days, working days, are lost per an undisclosed depressive episode at work. So if somebody has an undisclosed depression or undiagnosed depression and they're working, they would lose 36 days per working year. And it's not because they wouldn't be at work for the 36 days. No, they just would not be productive for those 36 days. So when somebody discloses, it's actually an opportunity to narrow down those days, and optimize their productivity while at work. Nasia, are there any other questions?
We have a few more that's come up. The
Okay,
next question,
how many do we have?
we have 2.
Okay, can we just start with Val's presentation, and then we'll leave the last 10 minutes for
Sure.
questions.
No
All right.
problem.
Thank you so much. Just hang 10, guys. Okay, you said I must start. Okay, I'm gonna turn my camera off. Then I'm gonna share. Right, that's what I do. Go to screen. Second. Okay, here we are. All right. I don't know how to get rid of this thing. Okay. Okay, I'll just hide it. All right. Val, take it away.
Hi, thank you, Abs. Welcome everybody, 138 attendees in this meeting. You guys have shown up today, and it's 138 people that can go into society and the world and tell people that you've met somebody that's admitted that they have bipolar mood disorder. And that is just your contribution to being an advocate for mental health. So I do appreciate your attendance, and I do hope at the end of this we're going to get participation, because people normally would rather sit back and have these questions in their minds without asking, without asking us to elaborate. So yeah, my name is Rankin Prinsloo, and I want to wish everybody a beautiful World Mental Health Day that's celebrated annually on the 10th of October. So what I want to cover basically in the presentation is I want to tell you about my experiences with mental health in the workplace. It's difficult enough to deal with it within normal society, within families, friends. People don't understand. And it gets even more complex when we have to deal with it in the workplace. So I want to cover basically, I want to give you a bit of a background about my story. I love telling stories. I also want to tell you about the presenting symptoms that I've experienced and the journey with bipolar mood disorder. Oh, I've forgotten something. Sorry, I'm a bit socially anxious and
Okay, Val, you're doing great. You're doing
okay,
great.
so I wanted to say, Abs, thank you so much. You said something profound to me yesterday, because I always refer to mental health disability, and you said to me the disability lays within society. And you identify as having an impairment. And I think that just made it so true for me, because it is an impairment, and people's misunderstanding of the condition makes it disabling. So yeah, thank you for that. And Sifiso, nice to meet you. I hope we will have further engagement, because I don't actually know how to continue with my presentation, because you've basically stolen all the words out of my mouth. And it's basically like you are telling my story, and it in a way makes me feel normal. In that, what, I've always felt like a round peg in a square hole. I just couldn't fit in, and nobody would understand me. But listening to your story, I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm actually not imagining what I'm experiencing or going through. So thank you. attendees, ABS, and Sifiso, I'm looking forward to engaging with you. So basically my presentation is, I want to share with you the presenting symptoms and my journey with bipolar. I also want to share with you what a temporary disability versus a permanent disability looks like. By the way, I last was at work on the 19th of May. I've been on temporary disability since then. I spent 4 months in the hospital as an inpatient. So yeah, I was just discharged not last week Wednesday, the Wednesday before. So I'm really enjoying being at home. So haven't been to work since May. And then I want to talk to you about the supportive working environments and how that actually makes it easier for me. I then want to talk to you a bit about bad leadership in transformation. And then I want to give you a few tips and pointers about you as an employee and what you can actually do to make the situation better. I appeal to you, please, if you feel that you identify with any of these, please put your shame and the stigma in a back pocket, because it doesn't belong on the forefront. So there are things that you can do. I also want to speak about what the employers can do. So if I'm sure we've got employers within the 138 people that are in here. Just some tips and pointers for what you as an employer can do to help your teammate, your staff member. And then obviously we're going to go through questions. So I'm going to start quickly with my story. Abs, I just want to check if you're on the right page there. Yes.
Sure.
Okay.
I'm on the one with the book that says, "Hi, Valenta." I'm
Yes. Okay, so I'm Valenta, and this is my story. People normally mispronounce my name. I get called all kinds of funny things, so I prefer to be called Val. So yeah, I'm Val. My dad used to call me Valley, which yeah, it was something special. Valleys are normally very, what do you call it? They dip.
Is
And
it why you put the book there? Because it makes
yes, can you see that?
Yeah.
So if you're looking at a valley, it's normally at the bottom, and I think of my bipolar mood disorder as the bottom of the valley would be depression, and as you come up would be the mania. So yeah, I think a lot in pictures and images. And one thing that my mind amazes me, because it can take me on journeys to lots of different places. I will just add here, sorry, I'm jumping all over the show. I will just add that I personally enjoy the mania part of my bipolar mood impairment. I'm very productive when I'm manic versus being down in the dumps when I am depressed. Okay, enough of that. Let me tell you about my story quickly. All right, so Sifiso, I was also diagnosed in 2007, just like you. So I was 35 years old at the time. I grew up in the back of my mind knowing that some behaviors in society were not, inverted commas, normal or acceptable. The reason why I grew up knowing this is that I knew that there had to be something wrong with my mum. Her behaviors were something else. So I always had the question, I'm going to find out what this thing is. And eventually, when I noticed my similar patterns to her, and moving up to city life in Johannesburg, I'm originally from KZN. And in KZN, you just had a dentist, you had maybe an optometrist if you were lucky, and a GP. That was it. There was no psychiatrist or psychologist or education about mental health impairments. So basically, the way I look at my bipolar mood disorder is that it invades my brain. So when I am depressed, okay, which it might not seem like it, but I sometimes put on a very different facade to what's going on inside of me, just to be accepted, to be socially accepted. So I often think faster than I talk or act. you know, it's sort of like slowed down. My thoughts are racing, but my actions don't match that. That's when I am depressed. When I am manic, I sometimes don't think at all about what I'm doing. And it comes out in my actions. You know, you can see that I'm thinking slowly. I'm not even thinking, but I'm acting in a very irrational way. Oopsie, sorry. Oh, goodness gracious. Right, so an analogy that I would like to use for bipolar mood disorders is related to a computer system. So you know what it's like to have a virus on your phone or have a virus on a computer system. I think about 2 years ago, our company had a total crash when we had hackers on the system, and it took probably about a year for the company to recover. So bipolar mood disorder affects the central nervous system of my brain. Please hold a second for me. Please hold 1 second for me. Okay, sorry about that. I just needed to mute my call. I actually need to put it on silent. So basically, yeah, the bipolar causes havoc within my brain coding, and sometimes it leaves me unable to do anything. So I have an onslaught of emotions that are more intense than you could ever imagine. It's like you have a happy feeling, but mine is maybe 1,000,000 times duplicated or inflated, basically. So lots of the reactions that are triggered are fear, unhappiness, happiness, anger, euphoria, or grandiose thoughts. My sleep patterns are often affected. Either I sleep too much or I sleep too little. And then my sexual or eating desires are sometimes, again, also inflated, where I'd just binge eat, or I would not want to eat at all.
Sorry, Val. Sorry.
Sure.
I don't mean to interrupt you. Am I on the right slide, or I have the temporary
me-
versus permanent disability on the screen?
The
but I'm
first
not
one is the
sure.
presenting symptoms. It's slide 3.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh. Don't seem to have that.
Okay. Let
I
me
don't.
see. You don't have that screen.
No, but
Hey.
continue. Is it before the temporary versus permanent disability?
Yes, it is. It is.
Okay, I'll just wait on the slide and then
Sure, no problem.
All right, sorry.
Okay, so yeah, and then I mentioned the eating issues, also sexual conduct. Either I have no desire or lack, or I'm a bit, I can't say promiscuous, but risky sexual behaviors. Also around finances, I'm often I don't use a logical mind around finances. Guys, please, I might look away from the screen. Just excuse me. It's sort of like I have to think in pictures and talk, so I'm not being rude or dismissive. So I want you to think about the first time that you fell in love and these emotions and these feelings that came up. It was just like so overwhelming. And if your parents might have said, listen, it's just a puppy love crush, come on. But you were on top of the world. And with bipolar mood disorder, the volume is like turned up. It's at maximum because that's the excitement that you basically cannot contain. And then imagine this puppy love crush. You turning around a corner one day and this person is busy kissing somebody else. So you feel the sinking feeling in your stomach, in your whole being, in your soul. And that, again, the volume is turned up. It's just like totally overwhelming that you can't imagine. So that's the way I look at that puppy love crush in comparison to my bipolar mood disorder. So it's both the top of the spectrum of happiness and the bottom of the spectrum of depression and all that comes with it. So with all this havoc going on inside of me, can you imagine putting that now, not only in society, but in the workplace? Bit of a challenge. And that's what I've experienced. It's led me to be so impaired that sometimes on an annual basis, I have to take like 20 days per year just to maintain, my mental impairment. So yeah, I know we're given 30 days per cycle of 3 years, but oh boy, I definitely used all of that. Plus, certain years was kind of like an ex gratia payment where, they would sort of like, okay, take your annual leave. Okay, we'll give you a few additional days leave. So in terms of my admissions to hospital or to mental health facilities, my world fell out of from below my feet in 2004 when my dad passed away. He was my protector from my mum. I never had a good relationship with mum. And it often, for bipolar mood disorder, needs a traumatic event or some kind of trauma for it to eventually come to the forefront. From 2004, 2005, 2006, I had a depression admission into Flora Clinic for 2 weeks. That came right, but I still didn't have a diagnosis. I eventually spent the next year and a half in hell, found a doctor, started the meds that I've been on since 2007, so 15, 16 years. In 2008, whilst trying to control the depression, the mania set in, and I had an admission to hospital due to mania. 2012 again was another admission for depression. 2014 was another admission for depression, as well as an eating disorder. I comforted myself basically. So my mum would put this onslaught of pure evilness on me, and I'd find the sweet things in life, which was in food, just to pacify what I was feeling. So again, 2018, it was a depression admission. Then my mixed episode started in 2022. So I would be 1 minute filled with rage and anger. I couldn't put my finger on what it was that I was so angry about. And then all of a sudden, so I could have a mixed episode within 1 day. I would be totally full of rage and then I'd be depressed. And then I'd be euphoric and so excited that I couldn't contain this excitement. And I think the mixed episodes were the most confusing because I never knew what the next couple of minutes would mean for me. So in 2023, earlier this year, I again had mixed episodes. I speak to my psychiatrist from the beginning of January. I'm normally supposed to see him every 3 months, but I saw the psychiatrist every month from the beginning of January. I needed that. I would just reach out to him and debrief, whatever it was, and we would move on.
Val,
Perhaps.
just on that.
Are we running out of time?
No.
Are we
It's
running out of
okay.
time?
No, we're doing great. But since we're going through this as a conversation, I thought maybe I should ask a question. You were talking about the difficulties of in a day having the swing happen from manic to depressive within a day. My question is, would this happen in the workplace? And if it did happen in the workplace, how did you manage it then? Would you isolate yourself, go to a bathroom, speak to somebody, take an early day? How would you approach that in those situations?
Sure. Yes, definitely. It did happen at work. It happened. So these mixed episodes are 2022, right? And around about November 2022, I also had an admission, and it was because of the mixed episodes. So basically what happened, I was on a Teams meeting with my manager and a couple of other people, probably 4 people, and we were discussing something. And I felt very strongly that I was making mistakes with this particular process. So the panic just came to the forefront. I couldn't handle it. I couldn't breathe. And I started hyperventilating. And I reached for my bag for the anxiety medication that I carry with me all the time. I take meds in the morning for depression. I take mood stabilizers at night and a sleeping tablet as well. So my colleague sitting next to me figured out, no, something is not right here. And I said to the manager, and I WhatsApped him, listen, I need to be excused from this meeting. It eventually ended up with, I felt embarrassed. I felt low again straight after that. And then the hyperventilating started again. And the whole office was, it was like a show, you know, everybody's like, what's going on? What's going on? What's wrong with Val? And I ran out of the office and my 2 managers followed me. And I sat there probably for an hour and I kept on telling them that I'm so scared, I've made mistakes and I cannot handle, you know, this particular process. They accommodated me when I eventually did get back to work, and they said, listen, we'll give you a break. You don't need to be involved in this process. So I was dealing with lots and lots of processes, and this particular one was stressful, and they fortunately took it away, took it away from me. So yes, definitely does help at work. And it was time away and trying to explain to them, like, listen, this is what I'm actually feeling. And later on that evening, I wanted to drink half of my bottle of sleeping pills, but fortunately, I didn't. I've tried on a few occasions to end my life. The first one was when I was in grade 8, standard 6. So 13, 14 years old was when I first decided there has to be a reason why I'm still here. So does that answer your question, Abs?
It does. And I think what you're highlighting there is very important. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge that I'm really sorry that you struggled since you were that young. And I have too. I was diagnosed with chronic depression when I was in grade 7. Later in varsity, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder type 2. And now I have been diagnosed with complex PTSD, which I think is far more fitting.
Okay. All right.
But what I'm getting at is I think you highlighted what a supportive environment can be for you. You know, safe to say that the other individuals in the office didn't understand, particularly because there isn't a disability inclusive culture and there's no awareness. So that's a huge gap. But the fact that you were able to then get support from your managers seems to have shown a certain inclination for potential to create that transformation.
Correct. You know what I wanted to, something that just came to mind now is that I've got bipolar mood disorder, but there's often a gray area between, am I bipolar? Am I borderline personality? Am I what? You know, so they so interlink with each other. So it's not just, this is bipolar, these are the symptoms. There's depression in there, there's anxiety in there, there's stress in there, there's social, you know, so it's just almost like a mixed bag of emotions basically. And there's often gray areas, so you might have multiple diagnoses within that spectrum.
Definitely.
Okay, so may I continue? I'm just worried that we've got 15 minutes left, so I'm going to try and go as quickly as possible. So currently I've mentioned that I've got this facade on. Inside I'm dying. I almost feel like I'm brain dead with depression. I can spend days in my room, in bed. Whilst I was admitted to hospital for 4 months, do you know the curtain that goes around the bed? I stayed in there permanently. I did not want to look at anybody. I did not want to interact. I did not want anything. So it was the most weirdest feeling, is that I isolated completely. Yeah. So I was temporarily disabled from work in May 2023. So I'm still at home. I was discharged in September. My lifeline is my medication. I will never stop taking my medication. My ex-husband, in probably about a year into taking medication, he said to me, "Oh, psychiatrist, psychologist, they're just after money. It's a lot of bullshit. Pull yourself together." And I stopped the medication, and I spent another 11 months thereafter in depression, where I didn't want to bath. I didn't want to answer my phone. I'd cut the calls. I didn't want to eat. I didn't want to cook. I didn't want to exist, basically. And that was due to stopping the medication without intervention from the psychiatrist. So currently I take my antidepressants, my mood stabilizers, whilst I'm dealing with mania, depression, mixed episodes, my medication has to be adjusted by the psychiatrist. And this is why I need to speak to him on a regular basis. My appointment is at 1:30 today, right? And I need my medication, I need the psychiatrist, and I need the psychologist to debrief. Okay, I forgot to mention that I've written 2 books. That was the best therapy for me. The first one is called Valley of Victory, and I mentioned Valley is my name, and my victory has been coming to terms and dealing with a mental impairment. And I did tell my mum's story, and for me, she wanted to sue me, basically. So be prepared with the box of tissues if you are going to read my story. Yeah, and I intend continuing writing about my life experiences. Yeah, so that's about it. So I'm a published author. It's available on Kindle, Amazon Kindle. And then what I need is a lot of support from society as well.
What is the
That
other
helps.
book, Val? You didn't
Okay,
tell us.
so Abs, I think we need to go on to the slide that says temporary versus permanent disability.
Thank you.
Have you got that one?
I've
It
got
could be
that.
your slide 3.
Yes. Can you see my screen?
Abs, are you there?
Yes. Can you see my screen?
Are you there, Abs?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, okay. It's on the first page. It's on the first page. It says
What
Core
can you
Network
see?
Abs.
I'm on the temporary versus a permanent slide.
It says, hold on, looks like something went wrong. We're trying to get you back. Okay, it's back now.
Okay, can you hear me? Oh, can anybody else hear me?
It's back now.
Yes,
You just need to
Abs, we
move,
can
I
hear
think,
you.
to the slide that says temporary versus permanent.
Yes, we can
Val?
hear both of you.
Okay, Val, I think you may be lagging behind. Can everybody see the temporary disability and permanent disability slide?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Yes, we can.
It says temp versus permanent disability. It could be your slide 3. It's
Can you
not
see
moving
it?
on the screen.
Okay. I think yours is frozen, Val, because everybody can see mine.
Nope, it's not moving. Should I just continue?
Go ahead.
Is mine frozen?
Yes, it
Dear
Does
is.
Abs
me.
need to move to the
Do
next
you mind?
slide,
Okay,
Val?
have you got the slide that says temp versus permanent disability?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so you projected on that side and I will just talk on the side if you don't mind.
That's
Is that
perfect.
fine?
No, that's perfect. You can go ahead.
Sure. Okay, so let's talk about temporary versus permanent disability. Okay, temporary disability, which is what I have been awarded by our company's risk partner. Goodness gracious. Sorry, guys. It's temporary disability and it's paid by Momentum, which is my company's risk provider, and it will cease or stop once I recover and return to work. So what do you call this? The description basically is that I'm not able to work for a while, okay? I get paid 75% of my normal monthly salary as a compensation. I get all my medical expenses, such as doctor's reports, psychiatrist reports, occupational therapists, consultation. Momentum is kind enough to allow that I submit the invoices and they sort them out. And one of the biggest bonuses was that Momentum is actually going to pay for the temporary disability period. Momentum is going to pay my medical aid, which is like, wow, my company doesn't even offer that. So in order for the temporary disability claim, I need to be off from work for not less than 6 months, and then not more than 12 months. So it's paid time off work for you to recover, and it's paid by the company risk provider. Right, so that's temporary disability. Permanent disability is awarded once. I can't speak about permanent disability because I've never been, so I'm just going to use a kind of generic thing. So permanent disability is awarded once a person has to manage the disability for the rest of his or her life. So you have diminished ability to perform the duties or normal activities before you had the illness. So psychosocial disabilities and intellectual disabilities fall under this, category as well. They're considered, and you can get permanent disability for those. So again, 75% of your normal salary as compensation. Again, like the others, your doctor's reports, OT, psychiatrist, psychologist, and then medical aid is also paid for. And this permanent disability kicks in after 12 months of not being able to work. All right, so those are just basically the differences. Abs, do you want to move on to supportive working environments?
I don't know why it's showing like this, but
have you got that slide?
Yeah, it might be my software on my end, but it's the slide is not complete. So you can go ahead and talk.
Oh dear.
But there are no points.
Okie dokie. So I want to talk about supportive working environments. So I've moved around to a couple of departments, and I am grateful to say that my current manager, we butted heads. He just couldn't understand why I was so feisty, and I would have no filter on my mouth. So we butted heads, but we've eventually found common ground, and I tried to express to him all the time what I'm feeling inside. So for me, it's not just going to work on a daily basis, where my work is monitored. It's also my well-being is taken care of by my manager and my team. My manager will check on me periodically as I declared this mental and emotional challenges and my bipolar mood disorder diagnosis. So whenever I have a leave of absence from work, he'll constantly be, the last 4 months, he's been in contact with me at least once or twice a week, just to check in. And then when I get back to work, they do a back to work meeting just to see how they could support me, how they could make things easier for me. And if my workload needs to be, certain things need to be added, certain things need to be taken away, just so that I can control my breath while I'm working. Whenever I feel shaken or stressed or buzzing like a bee, he says to me, I just take a break, go and sit outside, regroup, and then return. Sometimes I tend to overshare, and he's very conscious of that. And he'll call me aside and he's like, you know what, don't be so open because people will judge you. Just filter yourself, basically. And I take it in a positive light. So as Sifiso mentioned, the meds often cause tiredness during the day, and I've negotiated an extended lunch break. So I might take a 2-hour lunch break. This was when I was working permanently from home. And then I would work the hours in after work, or maybe get up earlier the next morning. So he allowed me that space to be flexible. So I feel appreciated by my manager and I feel valued. I don't feel judged. Okay. my manager and the team always engage with me to see that everything is okay. And again, as we saw mentioned, outside distractions are terrible. I hate the noise, the chatter that goes on in the office. It distracts me. So I wear headsets or earphones with one, just one in so I can hear maybe my manager or whatever's calling me. And then I listen to meditation or relaxing music just to drown out the office noise. So that's how I work in a supportive working environment. So I've been accommodated definitely there. Abs, you can move on to the slide that says bad leadership for transformation.
I don't know what happened to my...
Can you hear me, Abs?
Oh my God. I apologize, everybody. It seems my deck of slides
no problem.
is completely out of sync with that. So I might have it. So I apologize, everybody. But
okay, well,
yeah,
no problem. I will share it with you, the one that I'm looking at, and then you're more than welcome if anybody else does want it.
Are you sorry, are you on Teams? Can you share it on Teams? Then I can just start sharing.
You know what?
There's like that square with an X.
Yes.
I mean a square right next to the red button on the top right.
Yes. Yes.
On your screen you should see like a little something there, and yes, it says share. That's the one.
Yes, you need to share the document. It's right next to the button, that red button that says leave. If you share it, there we go. We able to see.
Are you able to see that? So I went through mental health, and then I told you guys my story. I told you about the presenting symptoms. I gave you a comparison with the temp versus permanent. I've now been through supportive working environments. Okay. I'm now going to just give you a few pointers on bad leadership in transformation. So our company conducts an annual disability audit, and I think that's part of the EE process, in line with EEBB. I was very excited to stand up and be counted. And I plead with you, if you identify with any of these things that Sifiso and myself have shared, please don't be afraid. 138 people in this chat. Please reach out to Sifiso, reach out to me, and we can hold your hand and walk you through, what goes next. It is confusing, but there is a solution. So in 2010, because of my verbalness about bipolar mood disorder, I was approached and nominated to be part of our Transformation Forum committee. And then once I also mentioned in terms of EEBB, disability inclusion is one of the pillars of transformation. Okay. By 2015, I resigned from the Transformation Forum due to poor leadership. I felt it was nothing but a smokescreen. I mean, we'd have meetings on a quarterly basis and we weren't getting to the bottom of, it was just a lot of figures and reports and there was no substance for me. So I decided I'm not going to be inauthentic. I'm going to leave because I'm not adding value. So another thing about bad leadership was away from the Transformation Forum. I work in the insurance industry and I work with the team of about 15 at the time. I worked with a team of about 15 insurance risk underwriters, and they would joke about psychosocial illnesses. And it irked me. It cut me deep into my heart because you're joking about it. This one is bipolar. That one must be schizophrenic. This one, and these are the conditions that they're basically underwriting. So they've got these preconceived ideas and they verbalize it. And yeah, it would upset me terribly. So in 2020, I was asked again by the chairperson of the Transformation Committee to join again. I did join again, and I did so with enthusiasm. Again, non-participation from the group and all efforts failed. We'd set meetings and then one or two people from the subcommittees would turn up. And obviously you don't have a quorum, so you can't continue with the meeting. And that went on for about 3 years. All through COVID, it was before COVID that we were included. So again, the committee was dissolved, and now they have a committee of company heads and executives that I'm confident are going to show up and make the changes. So yeah, I think the company has the right team to lead a transformative way forward. Right, so bad leadership in transformation. Just run through this quickly. I am aware of the time. So you as an employee, what can you do? Definitely avoid burnout to improve your mental wellness in the workplace. Practice resilience. I know it's difficult. Just sometimes let water slide off your back like a duck. And then practice self-care. Please seek help when you need it. Don't sit in silence. So you also need to maintain your social networks, engage in regular exercise and leisure activities, which when I'm depressed, I cannot. I just am non-functional. And then talk to your employer about mental health needs. And most importantly, know your rights, please. Okay. Next, what can the employers do? Employers can be agents of change in the workplace, from non-inclusive to inclusive. Please, employers, try as best as you can not to judge and get rid of the stigma and try to be the change. And then be aware of mental health issues within your team. You can call the person aside and listen, I've noticed this about your behavior. Is there anything I can do to help? And then obviously modify the workplace risk factors for stress, because it can be stressful. So just try and modify it if you see ways to modify it. And then you can develop an organizational climate that promotes well-being and creativity, facilitate access to healthcare for employees who may need it. You can be, you try to be understanding and flexible with the needs of the employees. And understanding their personal situations, combat the stigma and encourage open discussions in the workplace. Please, employers, let's try and do that. And then, yeah, I'm about done. I have a question for you, Abs. Can I ask you a question?
Yes, me, sure.
Yes, Abs, I would like to know, my dear, how are you doing today? How are you really doing emotionally and psychologically?
Thank you for asking. Nobody has actually asked me that in a really long time. Nobody has actually asked, how are you really doing? You know, everybody just asks, how are you doing? Okay, good, bye. But I've had a rough morning. So
I can imagine.
We've had a power cut since 6:30 yesterday. And you know, we were on a call up until, huh?
Oh, okay, cool.
Can you hear me?
You disappeared there for a minute. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, perfect. Okay, you can stop sharing your screen. So go back to that little thing next to the red button. And then just say stop sharing.
Next, stop sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Has it gone away now?
Yes, now it has, yes.
Has it gone away?
Yes. Yes, it has.
Abs, can't hear you.
Yes, it has. Can you?
Okay, so stop presenting. Has it gone away, guys?
Yes. We can hear you loud and clear. And we can also see both of you. Well, I can.
Yeah. Val, how are you doing that side?
Line is not very clear.
Okay. So
I can't see Abs. Yeah, no, I'm good. I can't see you. I can hear you now.
Okay, that's good. Just as long as you can hear me, that's good. Okay, so how am I doing? Yeah, we had no power since 6:30 last night, and we had a call at 9:30, and the laptops and everything died. So that was great because I couldn't communicate with any of the guests, with you and Sifiso.
Line is a bit.
Okay, switch off your camera.
Line is a bit shaky.
Okay.
Okay, let me switch off my camera.
Yeah.
Is that better?
And can you hear me better?
I'm so disappointed. Half the people have left.
No, it's fine. I mean, we were supposed to end at 10:30. I'm actually surprised we have like almost half of the population still here. So we're doing good.
Please bear with us, people. We're almost done.
So yeah, I'm having quite a morning, and I actually, yeah, my neighbor, I think he's also here. He has a generator. He was helping me plug in my tablet. The tablet was flat, the hotspot was flat. I was just stuck at home. A friend of mine said I could come to her house, but I couldn't get to her house. And then the Ubers just kept escalating. So by the time I wanted to leave, everything was connected. I didn't have enough money. It was just, I thought all the gods were against me. I was even asking Ganesh to just like come and, Shiva to come do the dance of destruction. Like I needed care. So I've had a really difficult morning, but actually I'm very well. I'm at peace. I'm content that a lot of people are finding this insightful and helpful. I'm glad that you have been and Sifiso have been able to share your insights. And I'm glad that this is happening, because just like you, I have a mental impairment and I have complex PTSD, and often when things sort of collapse, I collapse, and so it was the usefulness of having a mentor and calling her and going, oh my gosh, I can't do this. This can't happen today. And so, that is the value of having a mentor. And she was like, yes, you can. Take a deep breath. Do this, do that. You can do that. Do that. And then get your mojo back. So that's Lydia with the disability mojo. So thank you for getting my mojo back, Lydia. And she made this happen. So that is the power of having a support system when you have a mental impairment. And just to know that people are there to catch you. And the important part about disclosure is you allow this to happen. If you do not, then you cave in on your own and you dwindle and you lack productivity. Then there are complications at work with management and productivity, and then you face job retrenchment, and it just escalates. So being able to have a supportive mental health community in the workspace is very important, and employers should prioritize that. There are things called employee resource groups at workplaces that employers can create for persons with impairments to find community and to catch up and to share best practice and to support each other. And individuals like me and yeah.
Sorry, Abs, you are breaking up, just to let you know.
Oh, okay. I think it might be your network. So that's where I am.
Abs, could I just interject here for a moment?
Yes, I was thinking.
I'm going to take 2 seconds. I just want to tell you thank you so much for today. I know it wasn't an easy one, but we are absolutely grateful, and you did exceptionally well.
Thank you.
You did us proud.
Thank you. And Pom did us proud too, because he's been handling me,
So
my service dog.
We're going to say it now, but you did us very proud as well.
Thank you.
So
Thank
just
you
in
so
case
much.
you needed to hear that, and we've got your back.
Thanks, Nasia. Very, very, really touched and appreciate that. And it's important to have that in a team. I don't think we do that enough in the workplace. So I really appreciate my team at SAE4D. So I think it's time we ask how everybody else is doing. So if it's okay, I'm going to ask Nasia to randomly pick an individual who has joined us today. Please do not log off. To select an individual to just ask how are they actually doing today.
Hey, let me go through my list. Let's see. Who's the lucky person who doesn't want to be called out?
I see people dwindling.
Let's go with Deidre McAdam.
And Deidre, if you can switch your camera on, please do. I hope they are actually in front of their computer.
Yes. Deidre, are you there?
I am here. Hi, everyone.
You know, I had a feeling in the pit of my stomach that my name was going to get called. I think it's got to do with woman intuition. I'm not sure if that's a real thing, but definitely I was like, oh, here comes my name. Out of the 100 and something people in this gathering, it was me. But answer the question of how I'm doing today, it's a good day today. You know, sitting through this session and hearing the different stories from the speakers, and you know, obviously just applying that to, you know, your real life, your real world, and your own situation. It's been quite interesting to do this morning. But no, I woke up this morning, good mindset, ready to tackle the day, feeling really motivated. And I think it's just about keep pushing forward, and keeping your mental health front of mind, and what you can do to strive for your own success. So that's what I'm focused on. So it's, yeah, sitting through the session has been really helpful. And so thank you to everybody for putting this together.
Thank you so much. I just have a question. What do you think helps you? What helps you the most when you're at work and you're struggling, whether it be stress, anxiety, whether it is a mental diagnosed condition or not, or just having a low day? What helps you?
I think taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture. So, you know, we get bogged down on our day-to-day lives and pressures and deadlines and duties and tasks that we need to get done. So I think just taking a step back and looking at the overall picture of...
Line is breaking.
My apologies, I'm not sure if it's on my side.
I think it's yours, Val. Sorry, Deirdre.
No problem. So yeah, so just taking that breath and taking a step back and looking at the overall picture and why you're performing or doing the task that you're doing, and just being able to not get bogged down in the little things and get drawn into the stress. So yeah,
Can you just text her and tell her it's her line? Go ahead.
Sorry, ladies, but I think Val, it's only your line. Everyone else is clear.
Everybody can hear loud and clear.
I think the whole time.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
It must be my connection then. Sorry, guys. Sorry.
Hi,
no
Nonto.
problem at all.
Okay, sorry.
Can I?
Hi, Abs. I'm here.
Can I ask a question?
I got you.
Can we have Deirdre finish, if that's okay?
Yes. Sure, no problem.
No, sorry, that's it. It's just about look at the bigger picture. So yeah, no, carry on, Val.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to narrow it down for the 30 people that are still here. Are you brave enough to say I have, or I identify this in myself or others, or I'm not feeling well, I'm stressed, I'm taking strain? Is there anybody that's prepared to share with us? You know, direct question, not how are you feeling, but who is feeling?
Raise your hands. You can raise your hands. Come on.
Thank you, guys.
No. Yes, Nasia.
Okay, Nasia was also having a nervous breakdown this morning. So I suffer with depression and anxiety. So the anxiety kicked in full force. But, you know, when 100 things were going wrong, but like you, I also had a support system, which was non-2, which was like, it's okay. You know, we're going to go on, life is going to happen. So, you know, and that's exactly what happened. It was such a lovely, successful event.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm brave enough to say suffer with depression and anxiety. And I wish more people would take the time to understand how hard it is to get up each day, how hard it is to, you know, I mean, I'm on meds as well. And there are times when people think that I just want to sleep, you know, but it's not that. It's I've had a really hard day and I need to take a time out, you know. So yes, I'm comfortable enough to say that I do suffer with it.
Yay! Thank you, Nasia.
Thank you so much, Nasia. That was thank you for sharing that, because a lot of us, I'm sure, struggled to get up this morning. So I didn't sleep because of the power off. So I was waiting in the night so the power could come back on. So it didn't come back on. So at 5:30, I'm eyes wide awake, and I take sleeping tablets. So I hadn't taken those, and if I don't, I lose appetite. So I am struggling to eat today. But who else would like to just share, not even whether you have an impairment, but any thoughts you have, things that you're walking away with, things that you're going to think about, what you've taken away, whether you're going to change your behavior towards other people. Please feel free to share. Nasia, somebody has their hand up.
I'm just trying to see whose hand is up.
Lydia. I
Lydia.
think it's Lydia.
Go ahead,
Thanks, Abs. And thank you, Val, and thank you, Sifiso, for all three of you. And I think what I'm taking away is the power of compassionate affirmation. And I've seen it and I've heard it today, that with mental illness and mental well-being, we can cut it or we can spiral it by simply acknowledging people compassionately and by making them feel safe and be safe. And that alone can break the spiral that people go into. And I think that's the power that we hold as managers in workplaces, as leadership in workplaces. And it's time that if we fail to do that, that we are held accountable. But that's really what I'm taking, all three of you, what I heard is having that supportive environment, having that compassionate affirmations, how that halts the spiral and unleashes the power and the talent. Because the flip side of mental illness is the incredible intelligence, the incredible insights, the neurodiversity that comes through if we just allow it. Thank you so much to all three of you.
Thank you, Lydia. I know you've been in the game for so long, so to hear you give us props means a lot. But of course, our guests, you guys deserve the cup. You have come with your full vulnerability and your insights, and you have shared. I think a lot of us may resonate with a lot of what you said. And sometimes we don't see the pattern, and sometimes we don't ask for help, or we brush it off, or, oh, I'm just having such a grumpy day. Oh, it's, I'm so moody. Or you look at somebody else, you go, oh, they're so moody, they're so nasty. But sometimes, like what Lydia said, if you pause and you just respond with compassion, then it dissolves a lot of barriers. Just to talk about the challenges of disclosing a disability. So I have always it's been easy for me to disclose my visual impairment. Well, people can see that I have a visual impairment, so that I don't have to disclose. And then, of course, people still act funny around that. Oh, she's got a dog. That dog, what's that thing doing in the text? Why is she here with the... Anyway, so that's also another situation. But then it took me my previous job working at Coca-Cola to realize the importance of disability, in mental health disclosure. I was doing really well in the year, so well that the director gave me some more duties. And then what happened when she did that, they started crippling me, because then I had adapted to a system. I had known my deadlines. There was a system I had built. There was consistency. And yes, out of seeing my great performance, she gave me more. But actually that sabotaged me, because I had all this anxiety, because it took me so long to control what I had. And now I would have to reestablish the control and manage the anxiety and the self-doubt and juggling. People work 8 hours, I work 16. I spend more time after work doing more work because it takes me so long during the day. And that's fine. But now I had to spend more than the more time. And the duties she needed were day deadlines, so I couldn't do it overnight. And so I ended up really plummeting. And at the end, my final interview, I said to her, I was struggling because of all these things. And then she said, yeah, but Abs, it's too late to tell me now. And that I left with such a huge insight. that if I had disclosed this, and at the time she had given me this new responsibility, if I knew then that this would have been too much, I could have said something then. And because she didn't understand, or I feared that she wouldn't understand because I didn't tell her, I then set myself up for failure. And that did not bode well for me and the team. So it's just saying that it's easy for individuals to disclose visible ones, but it's also even difficult for the one with an invisible impairment to trust their workplace. So it's important that the workplace always creates a net to catch their people. So those are my final thoughts. Sifiso and Val, I'm gonna pass it to you to share your last thoughts with everybody who's still here.
Thank you, Abs, and thank you both, Sifiso and Abs, and all the 26 people that are left. I saw there was many people saying they had to join other meetings. So yeah, it's fine. I don't feel so bad now. I thought everybody ran away, that I scared everybody. So, so yeah, I can be scary, hey? So this is not an advert and it's not personal promotion, but my dream and my wish is to become a full-time mental health advocate and talk about this. So if you are looking for a presenter in your webinars, seminars, whatever the case might be, I do 4 different types of talks. The first one is I'm not a mental health professional. I'm a bipolar mood disorder warrior. So I can chat to you about that. I can chat to you about creative writing. As I mentioned, that is my therapy. And then another topic is I'm an advocate and a medical insurance underwriter. So I deal with, these kind of things. So I identify and I can understand where these people are. And then the 4th talk is raising awareness on mental health. I mean, I can talk on a lot of different topics, but those are the 4 main ones. If you know of anybody that's looking for somebody to present or whatever, or engage with your company, kindly let me know. Thank you. That's all that I have to say. And I wish you all, thank you for pitching up. And yeah, I wish you all the best.
I do have to say though, Val, you don't want to be a mental health advocate. You are a mental health advocate. So yeah.
Great. Thanks, Abs. Thanks, Val. Thanks,
Sure.
Everyone for joining in. Yeah, it was a pleasure and honor to share my insights and my lived experience as well, and just to hear from everyone as well how they're feeling and what they've gone through. It's always good to hear other people share their stories, and also just to relate to what they say and what they go through, and also to just learn the various coping skills that people have adapted in terms of their mental health. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sifiso. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Thank you so much, Nasia, for having my back during this chaotic morning. Thank you for getting me to the office.
No
Thank
problem.
you, Nonto, for allowing me to host such an important dialogue. I think we may have another one later in the year, Nonto, if I'm not mistaken, Nasia?
Yes, that one that we'll be planning soon will be more of an in-person one, but we will definitely share more information with everybody around that time and circulate it timelessly.
Okay, thank you so much. And we will record, this has been recording, so we will share this link with everybody who attended. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
I'm waiting for everyone to leave.